My name's B-Ry, and today we're going to be going over the patch notes for Scavengers. As of today, September 10th, the update, here's what we're looking at. Here is what is new. We've added the RASP evacuation. You know what to expect from matches by now. Teams of explorers collect data from Mother on Earth with a single dropship sent to evacuate the survivors after the expedition is finished. But while some competition is a healthy part of the experience, we wanted to reevaluate that approach, exploring new strategic opportunities for different playstyles. RASP evacuations are being introduced to expedition mode and offer explorers an emergency evac route, allowing those who have completed their mission to leave on their terms. Alright, so what this means is now players can leave the match early. The good thing about this is that it will notify all players on the map that somebody is trying to leave. The nice thing is multiple people can be extracted from the RASP rocket, but the issue with this is going to be less PvP for the PvPers, especially if you're playing with a team of like newer players or teams that aren't like communicating with others. You can have a teammate that hits a RASP rocket and then your other teammates are just left there, down a man to fight the rest of the lobby. So if they don't have a RASP rocket, now they're a man down trying to fight better players that are still on the map. This was implemented to help newer players, but what they don't realize is this is actually going to increase the skill gap. All in all, it's going to be harder for newer players to get salvage. The best way to get salvage is by winning a match, getting first place, hitting the bosses, winning a match. And the best way for newer players to get better at the game is by practicing, by repetition, by getting experience versus other players. This RASP rocket, in theory, sounds like it would be good for these newer players, but it's really going to extend the large skill gap that already exists with this game, and they're just these people are going to just get hunted. Every time I see a RASP rocket leaving, I'm going to be W King that team, hands down. The other unfortunate situation is we already have such small lobbies as it is, and it sounds like these RASP rockets are just as common as a respawn beacon from these item camps. So now we have a 6-team lobby, and there's potential for just about all of these teams to leave the match early. It's going to make the skill gap bigger, and it's going to slow down the pace of these games, in my opinion. I think they could have resolved this issue by making it so that you can upload salvage from data camps. Instead of the RASP rockets, they could do mobile data uplinks. So the same rescue beacon could have been a mobile data uplink. You find it at a data camp, and then you can upload your data wherever you're at on the map, and you can even upload your salvage as well. So this will help with research. This also helps with PvP and just keeping the pace of the game better and faster, and it solves both these issues. The XP given for extracting data points is so minimal, guys. It's so minimal. There's still not enough player rewards right now for extracting or uploading your data. So that's another thing I see newer players doing constantly is uploading data, when in reality that's just not going to be the best strategy for them long term. They think that it's going to, protect them, it's going to help them get XP, but it's so minimal. Most of the teams that are uploading that I see have less than 200 data points typically, and this just isn't going to give you the XP that you think it's going to in terms of leveling up your characters, which then gets you more data chips, which can help you buy other items and buy skins and other collectibles within the game. Directional sliding, all right, this is a big one. So again, I haven't played this, but directional sliding has been introduced to the game. You also control your speed when sliding. Use the directional keys to build up momentum and gain speed, or tap the brakes by reversing direction to slow down. Sliding isn't just for getting around the map to evading enemies. You can also slide into enemy camp, taking out opponents with range or melee weapons. Using light melee attack won't interrupt your sliding. However, you will stop sliding if you use a heavy melee attack. This sounds great and all, but from what I've heard from the community, I'm going to have to try to test this out myself, it doesn't work. Or maybe it's just bugged right now, but right now the directional sliding doesn't work. You can still only slide in one direction from my understanding. Fog of War. Storms, this is another big one. Storms aren't the only hazard in Cascade Springs when Fog of War rolls in. With Fog of War, locations on the map will be obscured until you get close to an encounter. Encounters found by teammates will also appear on your map. High-value objectives such as Sluka, orbital debris, data uplinks, rasp, and dropship will be visible even through the Fog of War. When you first approach an encounter, you'll see it pop up on your map, but you won't see many additional details. Once the encounter appears on your mini-map, more details will become clear, including the type of cache or number of data points available. You'll also see a ring emanating from the map icon while a keeper is engaging with it. Depending on how you leave the encounter, the icon will show up differently on your map. If you leave without completing the objective, the icon will appear dimmed, indicating the encounter was found, but the information is out of date. Leaving after completing the objective turns the icon gray, as all resources have been depleted. Okay, another thing that they're introducing to help newer players. This has probably been a complaint by newer players that just get sent by more experienced teams. If you know, players that metagame this are looking at their map constantly to see whether camps are being taken. So a camp that has like 30 data points, you open the map, you see that there's like 21 data points left. You know that camp is being taken, so you just full send that team and take out any enemies that are there. That's what they're trying to stop, however, by introducing this Fog of War. So now you're not going to be able to see how many data points are at any of the POIs. You're also not able to see the POIs on the map currently. So what this is going to do is this is going to make it so that newer players are going to have more trouble finding POIs. So if this is your first time playing the game, you're not going to know where these POIs are. You're basically just going to have to find them by moving around on the map. I've already played with a lot of newer players that don't really have a direction and don't know what to do. Now the fact that they aren't going to be able to see them until they're within a certain distance of those camps, it's going to make those newer players be even more lost. While the experienced players already know where all these camps are, they're just going to send these camps no matter what. So again, it's something that's intended to help the newer players, but really this is going to extend the experience gap even more and make it harder for new players to get data, get experience, get salvage, get scrap. This makes having a vehicle even more important. Having a vehicle was already part of the meta. It was one of the first things that I typically do when I drop into the new match. I'm literally going to send a vehicle off rip every single time. Hit the loot chests that are around you when you spawn in and immediately grab a car. It's going to be so important with this new introduction of Fog of War to have a vehicle because you can get around the map so much quicker. You can immediately find out whether a camp is being taken or not and move on to the next camp. Weekly challenges have been introduced, so just more things that can get you salvage and data. Hotfix changes, we're just going to go over the strike rifle vigor did not stun nearby enemies. It's like a 20% chance on proc. That's what it means on proc, is a 20% chance that the strike rifle vigor, this is Halden strike rifle, will stun an enemy, similar to Tarek's stun traps. This isn't really a gun that I typically use anyways, but if you are a strike rifle vigor user, this is good for you guys. Fixed no collision with many objects while in barricade outpost. This is the newest outpost that has been changed, that they never told us they changed, but it's changed, and what do you know? They have all sorts of bugs that are occurring there. Again, the horde mode changes, I'm not going to get into them. I'm not a horde mode player. If you're a horde mode player, that's awesome. I just think that the best way for you to learn the game is just to play it and not do PvE. But if that's something you're into, good for you, man. I'm very active in the community Discord. The overall feeling from this update is it's gonna push more PvPers away from the game. It's gonna slow the game down for newer players, and with a dwindling player base already, I think it's just going to push more and more people away from this game, sadly. I think a lot of good suggestions have been made, a lot of good feedback has been given on how to fix this game, i.e. nerf the Opus. If they say, hey, it's good where it's at, you shouldn't make it so that every player can craft it. It's making the gameplay stale. I think a great alternative only can find the Opus in the supply drop. Fix the reload bug where players aren't able to reload their weapons. Fix the Cali perma invis. I've already seen multiple invisible Calis. And just, again, find ways to make this easier for newcoming players. My biggest pet peeve, I've introduced this game to so many of my friends and other people that I game with, and they don't typically last more than a day or two. for these reasons that I've mentioned. The research is difficult. Tiering up your research, crafting, collecting materials and components, it takes a long time. Stop gatekeeping the research. Stop like gatekeeping the components that you're able to craft and the materials that you're able to collect. If you're too low of a research where you can't use those, at least let us disassemble them for nanites. I think that would really help. I think you should increase the amount of salvage, increase the amount of materials and components that you can get out of salvage to speed up the research process if you're not going to change the research. Give more player rewards for uploading data. I think those are the things that people need to do to focus on to make the game better. And having full lobbies. I will gladly wait longer to get in a lobby that's full of 20 teams than consistently play in like 5, 6, 4, like less than 10 teams to a lobby. Like that's it's just unacceptable for a game. I know it's still early access, but to me it's just a reflection of bad direction, poor choices by the development team. I really hope that they can save this game by listening to the community. Okay, so we've got a few days of gameplay in since the update, and I think my overall take on the hotfix was pretty spot on. While this did slightly slow down the pace of PvPers, enough so that it will be another update that's pushed more of this community away from the game, it significantly slowed down the pace for newer players. So much so that I've seen an overwhelming number of players at Cat 3, Cat 4 storms with white shields. Newer players don't have enough direction with Fog of War, they aren't leveling up fast enough and gathering enough scrap to craft their signature weapons and shields. And when they finally do find an item camp, they leave in a rasp rocket, oftentimes with no salvage at all or very minimal data that will help them gain the XP they need to level up their characters and get the materials and components they need for their research projects. Overall, making the research process for newer players be much more tedious. I don't want to focus too much more on this as I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I really hope that the amount of streamers, viewers, players of this game is decreasing daily. I'm urging the devs, I'm pleading to the devs, please listen to your community on Twitch, in the community on Discord, on Twitter. It's not too late to save this game. The last thing I want to have happen is this game gets rolled out to console and these glaring issues with the game have not been resolved, and a wave of new players comes into this game just to quickly leave to the same issues we've been complaining about in these communities on the daily. I really do want to keep making YouTube videos for this game. I really want to see it succeed. I've put hundreds of hours in this game and just don't want to see it fade away. I hope you guys have really enjoyed the video. If so, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button as it really does help me out. We'll see you guys in the next one.